Welcome back to another episode of Grower and the Shower. What you drinking there?
This is cucumber mint sparkling water. I'm just flexing on you.
Nice. Well, I thought today we would go over our least favorite antagonist in Dexter and Dexter New Blood.
I think that the favorites are pretty clear across the seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Trinity. Like, that's going to be the number one, obviously, for most people.
Yeah, I think Trinity's number one. Number two is Dokes. And
Yep.
number three is the Ice Truck Killer. I don't think that anybody tops those three.
I agree. There are people who come close. Like, I know we're going to disagree on one of your worst, because I actually have them in, like, my top 5 for favorites, but, you know, we'll get there.
Different reasons.
You start off with one of yours, and we'll see if it's even in mine.
I'm just going to say my number one least favorite.
Okay?
Number one least favorite is Lewis Green. And Lewis Green is the dude that dates Batista's sister. He's a whiny little bitch the whole time. His character served no purpose. He's the guy that canceled, Dexter's credit cards and did a bunch of weird shit to him. And they got in that little weird altercation where he had videos of a prostitute on his computer, and he gave it to Batista's sister. And his only purpose was really so that I forget his name, but the badass British dude fucking killed him on Dexter's boat. But everything about him I hated. Like, Dexter could have fucked him up so easily. Nothing about him was intimidating.
Well, I think
nothing was cool about him.
He didn't fit the code, all right? Well, that was like the main part of it. He wasn't out there killing people. Because he did investigate him, right? He did go to his house and like.
Yeah, that's when he found that video, and then he tried to just break him up. It's just, I get it, but it's like, there was no real danger of Dexter.
Yeah.
He was just a weird dude. And the whole purpose, the only thing was he was making a video game about serial killers, and Dexter was like, that's a dumb idea. And this guy's like, I gotta ruin his life. Yeah. I have to. He doesn't like my idea of a video game. And like, that to me, it was just such a weird thing.
True.
So that is my number one least favorite. All the rest that I'm going to say are not in order, but again, number one is the character I hated the most.
I think my number one least favorite antagonist would be Harrison. Not really, but if anything, it'd be the Skinner. I think he was like the most wasted potential killer out of all the seasons to me.
Here's what I do want to say real quick. When we're talking about like our worst characters, it's not necessarily that we hate the character. It's just like some of them have wasted potential that they didn't live up to what the character should have been. And the worst part is a lot of them have like really good actors. Like the Skinner, for example, I forget the guy's name, but I love him as an actor. He played in one of my favorite movies ever, Blood In, Blood Out. I feel like there was not. He was out of place in the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, like they tried to put these little. You go back and you rewatch the season, right? They have these little cues that you always see these palm trees when they're going over to the body. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's all these little cues that it's the tree guy, right? I just think it was such a pointless thing. Like you get Deb's informant boyfriend at one point, and you're trying to skin him alive, and that's like the main thing that starts driving him.
It was a big thing, and then that character just was like, no one cared about him. Like, it was done.
And then, don't get me wrong, he had potential of he actually catches Dexter, and he ties him up to a thing, and immediately you get your inner monologue of Dexter being like, I'm not afraid of this guy, that he wants me to be afraid. And then within 2 minutes, he's snapping his neck and throwing him over a raffling and falling on cop cars.
Now, I will say that was a badass scene.
For Dexter.
Where Dexter broke his hand, squeezed it out of there, and then snapped his neck. But yes, the character itself was such a wasted...
It was just that. It was just like, that was your...
He's on my list as well. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just he was probably my least favorite main antagonist. Because you could... argue there was a couple antagonists of that season, but he was supposed to be the main serial killer antagonist of that season.
Okay. So for the next one, I would like to say the brain surgeon.
Yeah, he's probably up there at number 2 for me as well.
Number 2. So tell me, like for the worst or the best?
Worst.
Okay, yeah. So he was my close. The only cool thing, like brain surgeons, the story was kind of, again, it was so thrown together, how he figured it all out with him and his mom and Dexter, and he was an old patient. It was kind of cliche that it was her long-lost son that she thought was dead, that was the original serial killer. Even though he did cause the most, detrimental loss that Dexter had, really, because Deb dying was the ultimate thing that pushed Dexter to, to over the edge. That was what got us to the newest season. I don't know. I don't like how it happened. He just conveniently was there, like how Dexter just left
Yeah, it all
and
just
left her there, and she got shot. It was just a weird storyline.
for him to let him go, and then for him to kill Deb, and how that all happened, like that's fine. Like once again, I've said this all the time, in almost any show we've talked about. That's fine if you want to do certain things. Just make me believe it. And it just wasn't very believable on how they said it. Like you said, it seemed very rushed and put together. And like it was the last season. And I feel like that's where you should be taking your time. And this is supposed to be the antagonist you're going out on, the big serial killer you're going out on. It was supposed to be killing Deb, how he got killed in the police station too. That was probably the only good thing about his character, honestly, was how he got murdered.
Honestly, that was the coolest kill. And I've told you before, out of all of Dexter, I thought that was the most badass kill. Or he's like, oh, you came in here to tell me this, and he's like, no, he came in here to kill you with this pin. And he stabbed him in the fucking throat with a pin. Yep. And that was badass. But yeah, no, again, he is on my top list for the worst as well. It kind of sucks because I guess the storyline was kind of cool. They took the scoops out of the brain and stuff like that. Exactly. I just think it could have had more to it.
And then we'll get into it with another one because I know it's on your worst, but it's same thing with another character. But go ahead, tell me your next one.
The next one I'm going to say, and it's not that I dislike the character, the actress, nothing like that, but I'm going to say Angela.
Yeah.
She's on one of my worst, and she's, of course, from the newest season. The reason I say that is because of her. I thought the way they set her up, she had so much more potential. And it's like towards the middle, it's like when she found out that Dexter was a killer, all the feelings, the emotions that she had toward everything was just gone.
Yep.
And there was no really building on that. I felt like there should have been more. I think everything that was laid out for her was too convenient.
Way too convenient.
The way she had the most. There was nobody that figured out who Dexter was more conveniently. No, exactly. It's like everything fell in her lap. It was 100%. Kind of dumb.
And like not only for new people watching Dexter New Blood, like that being their first taste of Dexter, they might like Angela, they might like all that stuff. But for people who were, been watching Dexter since the beginning and rewatch it even, I don't think it was her place to be the one to do that. You know what I mean? Like
small town cop with no access to any real technology.
Exactly. And then you bring in Batista at a point, and you're like, okay, now here we go. And I've said it in a previous episode. I always thought it should have been Quinn. Especially in the later seasons, someone was going to take him down. I think that would have been the most poetic thing, is to have Quinn do it. But then he doesn't even get caught. So yeah, Angela, everything that just happened with her, and then the ending, we talked about it. It was just so dumb. Like, for her to see Harrison shoot Dexter, for her to let Harrison go right after, give him some money, he says, get out of here. It just, I don't know. It just, none of it made sense for her character. For her to get the look down conveniently to see the hip replacement screw and everything, like.
The Batista saying that, even the end, where when she found out Dexter was murdering serial killer, like, she found out that Dexter was after the one guy that killed her best friend. And she was so upset with him. But when Harrison killed him, a killer, she was like, I'll just run away.
Yeah.
Like, no, that shouldn't have been her character. Her character was, you're a murderer, you have to go to prison. Yeah. And again, I think that there was so much more they could have done with her, or at least set it up for her to figure it out in a better way. Yeah. Make it a little more, give her a little more detective skills. Make her something more. But yeah, I think after that, I go into... My next one's going to be Quinn.
Really? Okay. Well, there's definitely a disagreement there.
Well, here's why I say Quinn. I actually like Quinn, but I did not like that he got really close to figuring out who Dexter was.
With the help of that other guy.
Yeah. Well, before the help of him, he knew something was wrong with Dexter. He hired the other, I forget the guy's name, but he hired him to look into it.
He was actually probably the only person that actually figured it out.
He was getting so close. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I didn't like was he just dropped it and never mentioned it again. And that to me is why when I talk about wasted potential, was Quinn. After that, he just never, even when LaGuerta brought him into the station, arrested him, Quinn never said a word. He never
Oh, he
said
didn't.
like,
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know
"Hey,
that.
I thought something was weird about him. Here, I have some other shit that I found out about him." He was just like, "Oh, that's kind of crazy. That sucks," and like never mentioned it again.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that is like the most wasted potential part of his character. I think when they introduced this character, I watching it for the first time, I hated him. Rewatching it, I loved him. Um, when he started growing his hair out, I ended up not, he kind of looked more smug even when he had his hair longer. Not longer, but when he just wasn't
Shaved.
bald.
Yeah,
I just think
I
he
know you
was,
look a clean cut boy.
I do. And I don't know. I actually liked his character going back through it and rewatching it, seeing how close he was and seeing everything that happened. That's why I think he should have been the one to take down. If someone was going to arrest Dexter, it should have been Quinn.
Yeah, I agree with that, but again, that goes into my wasted potential. That's
Hmm.
why I think that he is on my list of the worst because again, I'm counting wasted potential.
Well, you may not like this next one for me, and I know a lot of people won't because they actually like her character. This is one of the few instances that I did not like the character. Um, and I liked what they were doing, but to do it so early on in the second season, I hated Lyla. I did not like her
I
character.
don't know why you think I would disagree with that. I fucking
Well, some
hated her
people
too.
just liked how she just disrupted everything with
Yeah,
the normality that Dexter was trying to go through. Because it didn't make sense, right? Like, oh, he just starts cheating on Rita all of a sudden. Like, that's not even his
yeah.
type of character. And then, what, tries to say that it's drugs. And it just becomes a huge thing, right?
Yeah, I agree, and she is on my list just because I dislike her. But I think the problem where you have to really sit back. You're supposed to dislike her,
No, no, no.
and I think she
This is
was
a
like
few
the
instances where I don't
chaos.
like the actress. I did not
Yeah.
like the acting by the person. Like, I did not
Okay.
think it was good acting. Like you said earlier,
Yeah.
like I didn't like it, and I'm not hating on it or whatever. But for me, I just thought she did a poor job. She was like insane and crazy and psycho. But you like rewatch those scenes, and it's poor acting to me.
Yeah.
It's
No, I mean, I disliked her. I think that it made sense in what they were trying to do. I disliked part of it. I did dislike how quickly Dexter fell into it.
yeah,
But I liked that she was that person that accepted every part of Dexter, and that's what he was looking for. She accepted the killer. She accepted the all his issues that he had, things that he couldn't tell, and it made sense for in that aspect. But yeah, she was just a very dislikable character. She was meant to be
arsonist.
disliked. Yeah, she was an arsonist. Even toward the end when she killed Dokes, man. I mean, like I've never like I was like,
Yeah,
that's not how I wanted to see Dokes go.
no,
In
meaning
such
like
a
nobody. Yeah,
anticlimactic way, they just
exactly.
blow up the cabin.
Yeah, so I don't know. That was probably the worst. That's probably why I hate her so much, the character in general. It's
Yeah,
because like Doak shouldn't went out. It's fine if he gets killed. Like he should have died in an accident, because then the blood's not technically on Dexter's hands or whatever.
yeah.
But and it gave him a reason to kill Lyla. So
It
it's
was. I was very like a cool moment when she's like in London and he just like is there and kills her real quick,
yeah,
puts her in a fucking luggage bag and takes her out. That was cool.
yeah. So give me yours. Give me one after that.
I'm gonna say Paul. Paul was Rita's ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I disliked him is I liked him a lot as an actor. I liked his character. I
Hated
liked
his
the
haircut.
tension that he was putting into the season. What I disliked was again wasted
His
potential.
haircut.
I feel like his haircut sucked. That happens. I guess he just got out of prison. I don't know. He had there was tension there. It was cool. I love the part where like you remember when he fucking
Yeah.
and then Dexter doesn't even flinch. He's just like turns his cheek at him like, "Go ahead, I'll fuck you up." I love that part. I just thought that I even liked Dexter freaking out, hitting him over the head real quick, and getting that cool moment, and then Dexter going through the process to set him up. Where I thought the potential was wasted was after that. Rita never gave a fuck
Until he died.
until he died, but up until that point, he kept saying, "Find my shoe. I left there." She found it, and then Dexter, she was like, "Well, where'd you?" She
Yeah.
found out that Dexter drugged him.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was just like, "Well, how do you know how to get drugs?" And Dexter was like, and she's like, "You're a drug addict." She didn't give a fuck that she just almost killed her ex-husband,
Mm-hmm.
drug him to a different location, shot him up full of drugs, and got him arrested and put back in prison. All that was cool. She's like, "You just can't be on drugs." And then he just died in prison with no, like, again, it was anticlimactic. I
Yeah.
just thought there was more they could have done there, and
It
that's
just seemed
why
like they
like
needed to do. They were like, "Oh, how can we like introduce the kids more? Oh, let's make the daughter a little bratty because her dad died." You know, and it's
yeah.
like it just seemed like that's what they did.
Yeah, I would have. I thought it would have been cooler if Rita would have listened to Paul a little more, really dived into what he was saying, kind of questioned why the hell did Dexter like not know how to get drugs, but know how to do all the
Re-
rest of the shit that he
Rita
did.
never knew, right? Rita never knew
Mhm.
anything. Yeah, and that's like one of the things that I feel like was kind of wasted in the end. That like Paul could have been the one to figure something out. Paul could have heard something in prison, whatever it may be. You know, where that could have been a thing where it was questioned.
All right, so who you got next?
I know he's a part of yours, so I wanted you to go over him first. But I know the Doomsday Killer is part of your least favorite waste of potential, and I just wanted to counter that. But I wanted you to go first.
I thought that the way they had it set up was really cool. I thought that the student, not necessarily all in, but was thinking that he was doing the right thing, was involved, and he was kind of helping out because he didn't really want to do it. Then you have the mastermind behind it all, and then to find out he was dead and he's basically the dark
It's very
passenger of him.
Tyler Borden moment.
Durden,
Durden.
yeah, Tyler Durden.
Tyler Durden
Um,
moment.
yeah, no, I agree.
Fight Club, by the way.
I just thought that part was like, and then it just went off the rails from there. It's like, all right, well, now he just becomes like, all right, now I'm this guy. I'm gonna be this crazy killer, and
Well, I think
try to poison the water supply.
I think that part of all of it was that, he was always that person. And I think till that moment where, he kind of actually did take over and was like, all right, I'm going all in. Because he still had his dark passenger, right? Or whatever you want to call it. There's people in our
I'm
comment
not.
section.
I will say this: I'm not a fan of huge fan. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. Of off screen deaths. And I think that
Okay.
him being dead the whole time took away from it. I think it would have been cooler if he would have
Well, you saw him in the freezer,
killed
right?
him. Yeah, you just see him in the freezer, but he died off screen. How long has
Yeah.
he been dead? He's been dead the whole time. I thought it'd been cooler if they would have come to at odds and something would have happened there. Even what's his name? It's Tom Hanks' son. I forget his name. But if he would have either killed him and we got to see that kind of like, oh, I got to fulfill his destiny as it was happening, or even the mentor killing him, I thought would have been a cool thing. I don't like that he was dead the whole time. I just
think
don't like that part.
since the ice truck killer, so since season 1, it was the most, elaborate deaths, right? Where you had them on the horse and everything coming down the street. You had them walking into the I don't know, what it was, like a butterfly museum or
Yeah, I
something.
thought they were really cool. I thought that again. That's why I say wasted potential. I just don't like the way the story kind of ended there. I don't like how he died. I don't like how it ended. Um,
I
and
think
again,
Deb
I'm
needed
getting
to
nitpicky.
always know, right? Deb needed to always find out. Was that the one that she needed to find out on? Probably not, you know. But I think that whole season was weird, anyways, right? Because you have
Yeah,
Deb falling in love with Dexter. That's her, like, oh, I'm gonna go tell him I love him, and then finding him doing that. But I think in the end he was a good character. I think there was a lot of stuff there that may not have worked out for the totality of the season. You know what I mean? Because it was probably one of the biggest twists we had since Rita's death, right? That okay, his mentor is dead this whole time, and like they were just trying to do something, and I commend them for that at least, because I feel like some of the seasons and some of the killers were just so lackluster that it
yeah.
didn't seem like they put any imagination in it.
Yeah, I understand. I just and I get your point of it. My thing is always just like if it to me feels like they tried to. It's like, all right, we're gonna give
They
it a
did try
twist.
very hard. I will say
And
that.
that's again that goes into my waste of potential. I think sometimes the big twist that you're looking for isn't always the best way. And Dexter's notorious for that, right? They always try to go for it, and sometimes it hits, and sometimes it misses towards the later seasons. And I think that's one of the times. I think that it would have been better again to have that. And again, I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy that played the mentor, I think that he was a really good actor.
He is
His
a really good
character
actor,
was
yeah.
really cool.
They were
For
both
him to
really
be
good
dead, though,
actors.
I think they both were. Yeah, I agree. I just mean like him just being dead the whole time in a freezer, to me, took away from his character. And I just think it was, again, wasted potential there that
Sure.
they could have done a little more. and just did that storyline a little differently.
I agree. So do you want to end it on? There's only two people I think we could end it on.
I'll end it on. Yeah, I have one that I want to end it on. I think the my biggest wasted potential.
You go ahead, because I think it's probably gonna be the same as me.
Kirk Caldwell.
Yep.
Kirk Caldwell. Kirk Caldwell was the best serial killer Dexter's went up against since Trinity. He was the only serial killer that, even though some of it was convenient, like how he figured out Dexter killed his son, I guess it was kind of weird. He's just like, oh, there's ash in there. He must have burned his body. That part was weird, but still, the way he's been killing, just like Trinity, he rivaled Dexter in his
Yeah, I mean,
in his approach.
but I mean,
You know what I mean?
But he was so methodic through everything, and that
Yeah.
just showed with the body, because he was like, it wasn't even. You thought I was too drunk to know that it wasn't snowing that night. Those
Yeah.
were ash, and it's like that. Like even him being drunk was like, all right, I'm gonna go check this out. That's when
No,
he
sure.
finds the pins. I thought everything leading up to literally the moment where I started hating his character was when, the girl's like stripping for him in the bedroom, and he's like, oh my god, like his character
Yeah.
just starts taking this turn, and it's like, well, what kind of character are you? Like it just didn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I like that like you were saying, the methodical side of him. I like that he was actually able to manipulate Dexter. There's not many that have been able to do that, and he's one of them. And he did it very well. He played Dexter. He played Harrison against Dexter. He set up killing Dexter and his son. I just thought at the end, especially like when you got to see his badass kill room where he had all those
Yeah,
girls
which
in
was
like the glass
The most impressive thing I think we've seen.
Oh yeah, cool as fuck. There's the best display of like the serial killer's work was him. Where I thought it fell off, again, I think that there's so much more they could have done with him at the end instead of just, all right, well, this is the episode where we kill him real quick. We got him. We figured it out real fast. We found his kill room. We get him down here. We'll put him on the table. We stab him, cut his body up, and then, all right, now we move on from him.
Yeah, it seemed like in the end that's what they tried to do. Just move on, right? Like, all right, well, now that the Harrison's a killer or was gonna join me, we're gonna use Kurt as the example of how brutal these chopping ups can be, right? And from that moment on, it was like that was it. He still had the thing where he left the note with one of his henchmen that got left.
Yeah.
But that was another thing that was wasted. How many people did he really have on his side? How many truckers did he have on his side? Like, who were all these people that were working for Kurt, and how did he become so powerful? Does he
I would have
own
liked
a
to see
diner? Like,
I would have liked to see Kurt go to the last episode of that season. I would have liked to see him be the antagonist for episodes 1 through 10. I didn't want him to, because when did he die? 8?
Something like that.
And then the last 2 episodes were just Angela figuring out who Dexter was. I thought it would have been cool just to have Kurt out there doing what he does, even if they would have found out who Kurt was, and to have him kind of lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, they need to do more with this character. They just, as powerful as characters was, it's cool that you could be methodical. It's cool all this, but then you set him up as this powerful character in this town. Yeah. Was he just friends with that rich dude? Like, was that where it was coming
what
from?
was the point of? I think that he was. I think he was just as interesting as the Trinity Killer.
He could have been.
And what he was doing. It's just the Trinity Killer again had such a impactful thing. Like Kurt at the end, that was the biggest problem. Kurt really wasn't that impactful.
No.
The only impact that he truly had was it caused Angela to look into Dexter. That was it. And of course, Harrison, he killed with Harrison, and that kind of made him realize that he didn't want to be that killer. They could have done that with anybody. Trinity was that antagonist until the last episode. And then even at the very end, when Dexter finally got his kill, you find out that the Trinity got his kill.
That's what I was saying. It's the
best twist.
The best twist in all of Dexter is him sitting at the table, hearing the voicemail from Rita saying that I had to come back to the house, and calling and hearing her phone coming from the bathroom, right? Like, it's the best twist. That
best
Dexter
part
had.
of Dexter, period. One of the best twists, in my opinion, in all television history.
Sure. I could agree with that. But if in Dexter, I think until you really go down and you see Kurt's kill room, like, 'cause that just confirms everything. We already knew he was a killer. We're seeing that play out. But until you, like, oh, he's
The
like,
scope of what he did.
yeah, like that was
Yeah, it was crazy.
so it was a big letdown. But other than that, I don't think there was too many bad antagonists in the show. You know, I think Harrison, if he becomes an antagonist, I think he's one of the I'm just one of the worst characters. If we're talking about characters, I think Molly is just one of the worst characters. You know, there's a lot of bad characters out there in Dexter, but they weren't technically antagonist, right? So
Nah, yeah, I think and there were some bad antagonists too. It's just they weren't always. I was trying to narrow it down to the big people, not the one-offs. Like every episode had different killers on there, right?
Well, some
I was
of them
trying to
weren't really
exclude
against
that.
Dexter, you know, like like the 5 dudes.
They were just bad people.
Yeah, you know, like the 5 dudes who were, you know, the barrel guys, the you know.
I thought that was a cool storyline, actually.
Yeah, I did
really
too.
enjoyed that. Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you want to wrap up before we? Anything else you want to say before we wrap up the episode?
No, I think that was like all my top list that I had broke down, man.
Yeah, those were the worst antagonists in all of Dexter. And not saying that they were just bad, but the Skinner was.
I think that he could. Yeah, I think Lewis Green was the worst.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Hated him. He was just a bad character too, a bad actor. But,
yeah, everything about him I hated. I just hated him when he was introduced. He was a whiny little bitch, and I wanted Dexter to cut his throat.
Make sure you like and subscribe.